mostly Cubans, but many, many killed. They've been after this guy for years and years and years. And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy, and he's killed millions of people.
President Trump talking about the U.S. military mission that removed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The president also announced that he will be meeting this week with U.S. oil executives as he seeks to exploit that country's petroleum reserves. We'll dig into all of that. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio seems to be trying to tamp down the rhetoric on taking over Greenland. We'll go through what he told lawmakers behind closed doors. And we'll attempt to sort through the latest troll from the Trump administration after it published a new website rewriting the history of the January 6th insurrection.
I mean, a lot of stuff going on here, of course, and we'll talk about all of that. We will say the one thing that everybody agrees on is what the president said there up top, that the military did an extraordinary job. Some people saying one of the more complicated missions they've seen the United States military accomplish in quite some time. And so everybody agrees on that. The lingering questions out there remain, what's next for Venezuela? And, well, actually, what's next for the hemisphere?
A lot of questions. Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have the co-host of our 9 a.m. hour, staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire. Writer-at-large for The New York Times, Elizabeth Bumiller joins us. And CEO and co-founder of Axios, Jim Vandefy is here. It's good to have you all with us. So this morning on Capitol Hill, top administration officials will brief the full House and Senate on Venezuela. It comes as lawmakers from both parties are raising questions about what comes next after the capture of Venezuela's former leader and President Trump's repeated vow to run the South American country. Ahead of today's briefing, the president took to social media to announce that Venezuela will start turning over some of its oil production to the United States. According to the president, Venezuela will provide 30 to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. Trump says it will be sold at market price, and the proceeds will be controlled by himself to, quote, benefit the people of both countries. The transaction could be worth up to nearly $3 billion at current market prices.
Let me just say, though, as we continue, Willie, there's so many questions here. Yeah. First of all, will the oil companies get involved in it? That's number one. Number two, this is the president who's saying this. We haven't heard anything yet from Venezuelan people, so we're not sure if, in fact, this is the case, whether they've agreed to do it, how they've agreed to do it. And finally, just as far as the market goes, if you start pumping a lot of Venezuelan oil onto the open market, which really hasn't been out there or has been on the black market, a lot of people in the oil industry are saying oil is going to go down to $50 a barrel, which is the biggest losing proposition. I mean, anybody that watches Landman knows. Once it goes below 60, baby, it's a crisis, and Billy Bob's got to start selling shit. So the oil down at 50. Well, I'm just trying, but I'm trying to dig deep here. Yeah. But the fact is, it would be glutting the international oil market right now and would cause a series of problems for oil companies in America.
And expect the president to hear exactly that on Friday. He's invited the heads of Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Chevron, all going to come to the White House to talk about this thing that's kind of been sprung upon them. You're going to get all this oil, you're going in. They may say, that's actually not great for the oil market if you do that, number one. And number two, we're not going to send thousands of our employees, thousands of our workers into a country that is that unstable, that dangerous, perhaps that violent. We're not going to put people at risk. So we will see. Donald Trump saying 30 to 50 million barrels coming. And he said the revenue will be controlled by me. His quote. when he posted. So
Okay.
a lot up in the air right now.
And Alex, be looking for that clip where Billy Bob says, when oil's at 120, I got Vince Gill singing from a birthday party. When he goes down to 60, we're selling things. But I want to ask you to follow up on it's Landman. I haven't started season 2 of
I haven't
you.
either.
It was
What a
a
great
Jerry
show.
Jones, Jerry Jones cameo.
I'm telling you, though,
Great.
Really good.
I'm telling you, though, Jerry Jones, better actor than football owner. It's not even close. He is a great actor.
He was really good in that scene.
In that scene, you could see Billy Bob and John Hamm both staring, going, "Wait, what's going on here? Why, is this
digress.
Olivier? Is this Texas, West Texas is Olivier?" So we've heard all of this talk about oil, and the president telling me we're going to keep the oil. And then we saw this post last night, 30, all the oil we're going to be getting from Venezuela. I'm curious, what did you learn yesterday from the White House about how they're going to do this, how they're going to cooperate with Venezuela, who's in charge of Venezuela, how long they'll be in charge of Venezuela? Are we hearing anything from Maduro's henchmen right now who are running the country? Are they going to cooperate and turn over all of this oil?
It's an open question right now. What happens next? First of all, there are reports out of Venezuela. There have been real crackdowns there. There's been some gang activity, as well as some loyal to Maduro trying to crack down on dissent in the streets. There's been reports of arrests. The New York Times has that this morning. In terms of the arrangement with the government, it remains to be seen. We have the opposition leader, Ms. Machado, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, basically giving an interview yesterday saying she would give up her peace prize to President Trump if it meant he would help her take charge of that country. There's no sense that that's going to happen just now. Marco Rubio will take sort of the lead on this. I know there have been some speculation that Stephen Miller's going to play an outsized role.
The president said Stephen Miller laughed that off.
He did. Yeah.
Can you give us some behind-the-scenes info about that?
Well, there's a sense here that Rubio is going to, in name, be in charge. The question is, how much day-to-day can he actually do? This is a man with multiple jobs right now. He's become a meme that he gets another job every day while sitting on that couch. But he might be spread thin. Stephen Miller is one of the architects of the original operation, the drug boat strikes. So he will have, whether it's formalized or not, he'll certainly have a say there as well. And at the moment, the Venezuelan leader has shifted her tone and suggested she'll cooperate. But it's just words right now. It's too early to know how much actual buy-in and action there will be. But it's clear the United States is trying to dictate terms and say, you, the leader of this country, will do what we say, or we might look to other options.
We've heard for decades now from Colin Powell. we heard originally from Cap Weinberger. It was the Weinberger doctrine that got transferred into being the Powell doctrine. About how we avoid the next Vietnam, or how we avoid now the next Iraq. And everybody talks about before going in, what is the exit plan before you go in? Do you have the support of the American people? Right now, again, nobody is saying what the military did was not extraordinary. The question is, what is the exit plan? And we have absolutely no answers several days later.
Well, let's get to Jim Vandehei and Elizabeth Buemiller on this, and we'll look at the questions that National Review contributing editor Andrew McCarthy is asking in his new piece. What's the plan in Venezuela? He writes in part, quote, "We invaded a country that hadn't threatened us, bombed its defense capabilities, captured its de facto leader, and whisked him away to face adversarial trial in our judicial system. These are acts of war. That's how we would regard them if another nation even attempted to do it to us." What is the president's plan? It's not obvious that he has one. I don't see how you restore deterrence by taking apparent ownership by leaving in place the anti-American Marxist regime that was the supposed rationale for removing Maduro, while simultaneously encouraging China and Russia to believe they may be able to invade their neighbors with impunity. Elizabeth B. Miller, I'll let you try and wrap your head around that and come up with some answers. Any thoughts?
I have no answers. I don't think the Trump administration does either. I think what's incredible to me is those of us who remember Iraq, and I think everybody here does, you know, it's almost like the Trump administration is learned the opposite lesson from Iraq. You know, now de-Baathification is considered a disaster, you know, because the U.S. basically got rid of the Iraqi civil service and the military and started afresh, and that created years and years of chaos and bloodshed. And instead, the Trump administration has now done the opposite, which is to keep the corrupt regime in place and just, okay, we're now going to control it from a ship off the coast. We're going to control it from Marco Rubio's office. This defies any kind of reality. I just don't, and it's in a way, there was never a real plan for Iraq. This is much more extreme. There's no plan at all. And I think, you know, Trump seems to be the one who's threatening with these tweets and threatening the leader. If you don't do this, it's going to be 10 times worse for you. Nobody could ever imagine this would have happened, even in the first term, and now here. So I have no answers for you how this is going to work.
Jim, there's this rhythm that we fall into where the president says something outlandish or posts something outlandish, and then the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, comes in and sort of tempers it for Congress, for the American public. At that news conference a couple of days ago where they were describing the strike inside of Venezuela, when asked, when you say we're going to run Venezuela, who is going to run Venezuela? President Trump said, these people behind me, pointing to Marco Rubio and others. Rubio later said, no, we actually mean we're going to run it through policy. We're not actually going to be the ones there governing. Same thing on Venezuela. Just yesterday, Marco Rubio spoke to a group of senators, said, guys, we're not going to invade Venezuela. The president wants to buy Venezuela. So you
Greenland.
Greenland is what I meant. So you have this dynamic that we've seen where Marco Rubio has to kind of smooth out what the president has said. So which do we believe, I guess, is the question.
I think Stephen Miller is a much closer approximation to what Donald Trump thinks right now than Marco Rubio is. I agree that there's not any coherent plan for how they're going to govern Venezuela now that they've toppled the regime. I'm not surprised they're able to topple the regime as easily as they could. We have a military that's bigger than the next 10 combined. We have an awesome special forces, Delta, others who've done this type of work with great precision in the past. But if you really want to understand Trump and you want to understand kind of how he's thinking about the world, listen to Stephen Miller. I think the president has been very clear over the last couple of years that he doesn't agree with the way most people look at the global map. He thinks that people are ruthless, people are selfish, and that power is what rules. I think he's comfortable with a world where there's different spheres of influence, where China has its chunk, Russia has its chunk, and we have ours, which is this hemisphere. I think underneath that, he thinks, okay, if we have oil, I don't think oil is as valuable as it was 5 years ago because there's just more efficient energy and a more diverse set of energy sources. He does seem to think that oil matters a ton. But if you look at what's in Venezuela, if you look at what's in Greenland, if you look at what's in Canada, if you go back to the way that he talked about Canada earlier, about a year ago, it is a lot of the minerals and a lot of the components that you need to win an AI war, which will ultimately probably decide who rules the world 10 to 20 years from now. So that would be the global way that they're looking at this. Nobody should be surprised that we went in and we don't have some kind of coherent plan, and now that there's factions trying to shape it. That's how it's played out with every single major act by this president. We do something big. He does it somewhat, a lot of people internally feel like a little impulsively sometimes, but he does it instinctively. They trust his instincts, and then they build a coherent, or try to build a coherent policy around it. Marco Rubio's job is to make people feel better, to make other nations feel like we're not trying to take over the world, make Republican senators feel like, hey, we're not just going to do crazy things. And it's Stephen Miller's job as kind of the mob boss of the White House. The guy is the tough guy. He's a guy who got them to go even harder line than Trump himself wanted to go on immigration. He understands power now. He understands a power void. He's filling it. He knows if he pushes as hard as he is, like he did in that CNN interview, he can move the balance of power closer to his worldview. And don't underestimate his power internally. He's by far and away the most powerful staffer in this administration, not close.
So Willie mentioned Greenland. The White House says President Trump is discussing a range of options to obtain that island. In a statement yesterday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt wrote in part, President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States. Utilizing the U.S. military is always an option at the commander-in-chief's disposal. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, meanwhile, told lawmakers on Monday that recent threats toward Greenland do not signal an imminent invasion. That's according to new reporting from the Wall Street Journal. Rubio's comments came during a closed-door briefing with the Secretary of State explaining that the Trump administration's goal is to buy the island from Denmark. The paper reports that Rubio's remarks were in response to Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer asking if the administration was planning to use military force in other places, including Mexico and Greenland. Rubio played down the idea that the United States could seize Greenland by force, according to people familiar with the briefing. The Journal also notes that U.S. and European officials say they have seen no signs of the White House preparing a military invasion of Greenland. Meanwhile, European leaders yesterday showed support for Greenland, releasing a joint statement saying the island belongs to its people and stressing that security in the Arctic must be achieved collectively with NATO allies, including the United States. It comes after Denmark's prime minister on Monday warned that an American takeover of Greenland would amount to the end of NATO.
The Wall Street Journal's editorial board is writing about this morning in a piece titled Invade Greenland? Why? The piece writes, the invasion talk is probably Trumpian bluster to prod a negotiation to buy the island or end up with some other expanded U.S. presence. But even the suggestion of force is damaging America's interest across the Atlantic. Danish Prime Minister Frederiksen was candid that, quote, if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything will come to an end, including NATO. The truth of that statement is what makes military action for Mr. Trump hard to take seriously. But feuding with friends over Greenland is giving Vladimir Putin another wedge to divide America from Europe to his benefit. That means less U.S. leverage for driving a good and durable Ukraine settlement. Maybe the Greenland affair is merely what now passes for online MAGA entertainment. But Mr. Trump would help his own cause in every hemisphere if he dropped the invade Greenland routine. That's the Wall Street Journal's editorial board. Joe, as many people have pointed out, if you want a bigger base, we already have one on Greenland.
Right.
Denmark says, go for it. You want another base on Greenland?
Right.
Go for it, says Denmark. It's unnecessary to threaten them with military force rather than to talk to them, to negotiate with them, or even to attempt to buy the island.
No, it's insanity. And the fact is that they are good NATO partners of ours. So you can't even claim that it's damaging to America's national security interest because, well, they're our NATO ally. So it is, and the White House yesterday, John, saying that invading Greenland has always been an option. No, it's not an option unless you are absolutely insane, unless you want to turn your back on what the United States of America has been doing since 1945, which has created, let me say this again for idiots out there that say, oh, well, America's been suckers. No. Everything we've set up, the world order that we set up starting in 1947 led to the American century, led to American dominance, led to America's military by and far being the strongest military in the history of mankind, led us to be the most powerful country when it comes to soft power, led us to become the most powerful economic machine in history, in world history. These billionaires running around saying stupid shit like this, these are the same billionaires that are billionaires because of the world order that we created in this country post-1945. That world order begins to crumble piece by piece by piece when you start undermining the NATO alliance by talking about invading a NATO ally. Let me just say again, because I understand that there are a lot of people that say things like this, that it's a military option, that I don't know. Maybe they're playing with coloring books before they say things like this. Let me explain again. The United States GDP is around 25, 26, 27 trillion dollars. Europe's, the EU's GDP is around 23, 24, 25 trillion dollars. Russia's is like 1.4 trillion. It's how powerful we are when we stand shoulder to shoulder next to our allies that help us defeat Nazism, that help us defeat communism, that will help us together overcome the threat from China. And we're talking about Venezuela when China is eating our lunch across the globe. We're talking about Greenland when China is eating our lunch across the globe. We're talking about all of these 19th century pursuits when China is rushing headfirst into the 21st century race, militarily, economically, diplomatically, and most importantly, Jim Vandehei would certainly say technologically, on AI. This is insanity to talk about going into Greenland. Venezuela, I understand militarily. You can talk about that. You can justify that action if done correctly. If done correctly. And right now, the military part, again, done correctly. But we don't know what it's going to be like moving forward, and doesn't look great right now. But Greenland, that shatters the international order that has benefited the United States time and time again. It's madness.
Analysts believe that Vladimir Putin had two goals with his invasion of Ukraine. One, of course, take the country. But secondly, to really strain and fracture the NATO alliance. And this here is happening. He had nothing to do with it. And if this is already putting pressure on the alliance, everything you just said is right. And the United States, I've been told this is sort of a good cop, bad cop routine. That they don't want to rule out military option. I've been writing on this, the Greenland issue, the last couple of days. They want to keep the military option out there as leverage. There's no current plan. There's no concrete steps forward to launch some sort of invasion of Greenland. I think everyone sort of knows that.
Yeah, but the words.
I know, that's it.
The words are damaging. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal editorial page correctly says the words are damaging to America's foreign policy interests.
Even saying those things strains the alliance. That was an extraordinary statement that Mika and I, it happened on our air yesterday. We were talking about it when the leaders of NATO put out this thing, calling out the U.S. by name repeatedly.
And by the way, this is happening while Jared Kushner is over in Europe striking a deal with our NATO allies to have Britain and France lead a security guarantee in Ukraine, where they would have a military presence in Ukraine. The Europeans are coming together with the Americans. We're moving toward a security agreement that would guarantee the protection of Kyiv's government. And we're talking about Greenland at the same time?
Well, these things are connected because Europe, to this point, has been really reluctant to call out the Trump adventurism when it comes to Greenland because they're afraid of upsetting the president, endangering their role in Ukraine, endangering these security guarantee negotiations. And that's why they felt like the rhetoric the last 4 days was so extreme. They were willing to take the risk of upsetting President Trump by putting out the statement yesterday, saying Greenland's sovereignty, Denmark/Greenland's sovereignty must be respected. And I think we will see, though, an effort from the United States, even if military option remains just a threat and not actually something concrete, they're going to put a lot of pressure on there to cash bonuses, stage an election, referendum, whatever it might be, to try to acquire Greenland. And even that, even if there's never boots on the ground, even if there's no military deployed, is going, because Denmark's made clear, Greenland is not for sale. Greenland is not available. So even trying these things going to put an extraordinary amount of strain on this all too important alliance.
You know,
right.
we would be so much better off if the map showed Greenland at its natural size.
Yes.
You show that map looks really big. See that? Look, that just looks so inviting.
Of course you want it.
Yeah, so who wouldn't want that, right? It's not that big.
The president sees that It's the size of the United States, bigger than the United States. We need to have that.
But
when it's flat on the map. But
exactly.
56,000 people.
We've just scratched the surface here. Still ahead on Morning Joe, a look at the new effort by the White House to rewrite the history of the January 6th Capitol attack. Plus, it seems President Trump just figured out that health care will be a major issue ahead of the midterms. We'll show you his new comments. Morning Joe, we'll be right back.
You want oil to live above 60 but below 90. And don't get me wrong, we're still printing money at 90, but gas gets up over $3.50 a gallon, it starts to pinch. It hits 100, every product in America has to readjust its price. $78 a barrel, that's about perfect. You know, it brings enough profit to keep exploring, but it don't sting as much at the pump.
This is the year your hair stops holding you back. You'll pull it up, and for the first time in a while, you'll just like your ponytail again. That shift will come from sticking with a hair growth routine that works from the inside out. So you'll wear it up, down, whatever feels right. And when the girls make dinner plans, you'll say yes without thinking twice. Because the difference isn't just in your hair. Start growing today at Nutrafol.com.
Complete or update meningococcal vaccines at least 2 weeks before you start. If treatment is urgent, you should receive antibiotics with your vaccines. Don't start if you have a meningococcal infection. Infusion reactions may include back, belly, limb, or chest pain, muscle spasms, blood pressure changes, tiredness, shaking chills, bad taste, breathing problems, or face, tongue, or throat swelling. Ultomiris is continuous symptom control. Talk to your neurologist today.
VisionWorks makes things simple. We organize frames by shape and price.
Oh, I love these.
And if you change your mind?
Yeah, I changed my mind.
There's our 100-day guarantee. VisionWorks. See the difference.
Life with ear ringing sounded like a constant train whistle. Lipoflavonoid. With 60 years of clinical experience, it's the #1 doctoral with lipoflavonoid.
To block inflammation in your gut. With a legacy of more than 10 Infusion and serious allergic reactions can happen during or after treatment. Entyvio. Gut-focused Entyvio works right where you...
I was ignoring it because I was a full-time working mother. Then I came across Nutrafol. Now my hair is thicker and stronger. And
gut-focused Entyvio works right where you...
finally feel like myself again.
Get growing at Nutrafol.
Is so weird. We get it.
Gut-focused Entyvio works right where you...
The first day back from maternity leave is when it's
of America.
Gut-focused Entyvio works right where you...
As a government of the people, by the people, a nation of many sovereign states. A perfect
Gut-focused Entyvio works right where you...
Humanity, for which American patriots sacrifice equality, justice, and humanity.
Gut-focused Entyvio works right where you...
I therefore believe it is my duty to respect its flag, equality, justice, and humanity.
The report from Adam Schefter was that within an hour of Harbaugh becoming available, he heard from 7 NFL teams. There are only 6 teams with coaching vacancies.
Wow.
So there's at least one team thinking of jettisoning him.
If you're running the Ravens, why in the world do you get rid of really a guy who's probably headed to the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Just a great coach.
There's been writing in the Baltimore paper that there's been some friction between Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. That might be part of it. Hard to say.
Well, we'd heard that Lamar was not, by the end of the year, wasn't all in.
Yeah.
And he sure didn't look like it this year.
No, he was not all in this year. And again, they're this close to advancing to the playoffs if the guy
doesn't miss a field goal.
So, do you guys play Bananagrams?
Years ago, I did. Yeah.
Is navigable a word?
Navigable is a word.
Sure.
It's not okay.
It's navigable is a word.
All right.
Yeah.
Just check.
Is that in Bananagrams today?
Did your daughter beat you using navigable?
No, but I just want to make sure because we're about to use it. But she wins, and
navigable.
Literally, no one can beat her.
The waters are navigable.
In Bananagrams. Jim,
If
in
you
your
have John Harbaugh
latest column
as your
for
football
Axios,
sentence. Exactly. That's the
boys.
Yeah.
You say the era of post-disruption society
Maybe the
has
Packers
begun.
are looking at Harbaugh.
Oh my Lord!
They're in the playoffs.
And barely in the
lose.
playoffs. How do you feel? How do you feel about the Packers right now, man? They are kind of limping in there.
Kinda. We've lost 4 games in a row, dude. Whatever. I don't think there's any good teams in the NFL right now, so we have as good a shot as anybody else. But if we lose, we might have Harbaugh as our coach.
Okay, there you go.
Elizabeth looks so patient. Okay,
She is so
Jim, in your column, you say the era of post-disruption society has begun, but that it is navigable for everyone if the phenomenon is understood. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, we worked with FGS Global, which did a massive polling exercise of 20,000 people across Europe,
Venezuelan
Canada,
leader
Japan,
Nicolas
in the U.S., and then also talked to 175 basically C-suite level people, person to person. What was striking is in every single country, it's the exact same dynamic that we see here. We tend to think that we're special or everything's kind of weird because of Trump. In all of those countries, everyone is way more pessimistic than ever before. Everyone's more confused and more distrustful than ever before. The number one topic in every single country is affordability. It's not a different topic in a different country. And what that is we tend to think like, well, everything's being disrupted now. In fact, everything's already been disrupted because of AI, because of populism, because of immigration and migration. You're now living with the consequences of that. And so in each of those countries, you're dealing with a lot of new politics. You're dealing with a lot of fear about AI. You're dealing with a lot of distrust of media. That's not just a U.S. phenomenon. People don't trust the media in any of these countries. And I think to navigate this stuff, to make it navigable, you have to at least understand the reality of the world that we face. It's not a world where people just read one newspaper or see one truth. It's one where a lot of different people have a lot of different truths. You have to understand that people are pessimistic, even if things are pretty good. You see this in the U.S. I'm not saying the economy's great, but by historical standards, for most people, it's actually pretty darn good. If you look at the employment rate, if you look at inflation, which is higher than you want it, but not historically astronomically high, if you look at the amount of savings that people have, by most measures, people are okay. But what people don't understand about economics is it's not absolute. People measure themselves against other people. And so you see this big divide of most people who feel like, I'm not making more money because of the stock market. If NVIDIA goes up, doesn't do a damn thing for me. I don't have any investment in that, versus all these people at the top, which is getting bigger and bigger, who are making more money off these new technologies, who are making more money off of Donald Trump and off of his presidency. And I think to understand and navigate the next year, you just have to understand that the forces that are shaping your reality, your economy, your politics are just a lot different than a lot of people think. I think you see this play out on almost every topic.
And Elizabeth, I know you're too young to remember what I remember growing up in the early 1970s and mid 1970s in upstate New York. But I could even remember then driving in the backseat of my parents' car, hearing them talking about how, the United States is getting crushed by Japan, and Detroit is collapsing, and GM is going under, and Datsun and Toyota are taking over, and Eastman Kodak is going by the way. All of these things that led to a post-industrial rot across the Rust Belt. And so I find it hard to believe that history is not going to see these two waves of technology. The technological wave that came in the 80s that led to the information and tech age that crushed American workers and workers in the West. And now we're followed up by an AI wave. And nowhere has that been felt more than in journalism, newspapers. The first wave came online in the early 2000s and just destroyed the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that my parents grew up reading, gone. I think the Cleveland Plain Dealer may not be printing every day anymore.
There's a number of major metropolitan newspapers that don't actually print anything anymore.
They've just collapsed, Elizabeth. So it's a 1-2 punch over 40 years, and it's hard to figure out how these waters are navigable, especially for working Americans.
Well, it seems that this is now going to, the AI boom is going to affect sort of more white-collar workers, possibly, people starting out at companies and at newspapers where the jobs they once had have been taken over by AI. So that's it's affecting people starting out in the workforce with college degrees, and that's frightening to people. And you mentioned all the well, I'm quite old enough to remember the 70s. I'm also able to remember. I'm also able to remember Vietnam and the 60s and the protests when it seemed like the country was falling apart. So, those of us who despair sometimes have to remember that we've been through much worse before.
Much worse.
All right, writer-at-large for the New York Times, Elizabeth Bumiller, and CEO and co-founder of Axios, Jim Vandehei. Thank you both very much.
I thought it was very polite that Elizabeth tried to make me feel better about my age.
Okay.
First movie Elizabeth probably remembers is like
The Goonies?
The Goonies, maybe. Dirty Dancing. I mean, come on.
I mean,
she doesn't remember that stuff.
Okay. Coming up, the House is expected to vote on extending Affordable Care Act tax credits tomorrow after some House Republicans pushed back against their own leadership. Steve Ratner is here with charts breaking down how those expired subsidies impact millions of Americans. And as we go to break, a quick look at the traveler's forecast this morning from AccuWeather's Bernie Raynow. Bernie, how's it looking?
Make us some problems in the Northeast here this morning. We have snow and ice in northern New England. Your exclusive AccuWeather forecast showing rain in Boston, but freezing rain west of I-95. Wait for it. Brrr, the rain of foghorn, dense fog from New York City toward Philadelphia this morning. Also some fog in Atlanta and parts of the South. Other than that, though, it's just sunny and warm. Your exclusive AccuWeather travel forecast: that fog's going to cause problems in New York City and Philadelphia this morning, then gusty winds and delays this afternoon. To help you make the best decisions and be more in the know, download the AccuWeather app today.
Hey there, here's how I sound.
We both love Rakuten. Love it. When you shop online, you just press that activate button and you're saving money. You earn cash back at thousands of stores.
And if you use it every time you shop, it really starts to add up.
I earned $254 last year. Did you know that you can stack cash back on top of sales?
I mean, you save on beauty, clothes, home decor, pet stuff, electronics.
And all I have to do is get the free app and shop.
This Rakuten thing is real. Real, girl.
Join today for free. Thank you for calling the Bombas Comfort Line. Please listen carefully as our menu options have changed. Bombas is socks, slippers, tees, and underwear. Crafted with the finest materials. Press 1 for comfort, 2 for style, 3 for great gifts. You chose comfort, softness, a bit of So run in Bombas, sleep in Bombas, pet a llama in Bombas, give back in Bombas. Because with every purchase, one is donated. Bombas. Visit bombas.com and get 20% off your first order. It can be hard when the ones who cared for you need care. So whether it's a caregiver at home or support at a senior living community, the new Care.com makes it easier to find the right fit. Join now and find care at Care.com.
When I found out I had diabetes, it felt like a door slamming shut on my dreams. I wish I could tell myself what I know now, that with help from Dexcom G7, I'd take control of my diabetes and do more than I ever dreamed possible.
This is Bombas. They took socks and asked, what if they could be way more comfortable? What if comfort could be for everyone? At Bombas, one purchased equals one donated. Get 20% off your first order at bombas.com.
When logic bends, when certainties shatter, when left is right and right is left, which way do you turn? Go beyond the headlines. A trusted global perspective. The Economist. Know which way is up.
I'm Jamie, founder of Rain. Our latest invention, Retinal Verity. Protect your home like I do with Retinal Vision.
Save up to 50% on select installed styles of beautiful new carpeted.
A2300 Empire.
Today, if history